comfortable with that? Just think about this. Let's think about this for a minute. This is a person whose father was a presidential candidate, a senator from New York, and a presidential candidate in 1968, a very successful one until he was assassinated. His uncle was president of the United States. He has spent his whole life as a mainstream Democrat and an environmental lawyer suing corporate polluters and factory farms for threats they pose to the public health. And now suddenly, he's somebody whose views are not just stigmatized, which would be fine, they're banned. He's a presidential candidate who giant corporations are blocking the public from hearing, because he dissents from the orthodoxy of a health establishment that is proven to be not only wrong, but deceitful and dishonest over and over and over again. Is that the proper role of large corporations, of corporate giants in American society? To prevent views from being heard on the internet? Here, NBC ends up by saying at least one clip of the interview still appears on TikTok. A representative for TikTok did not immediately have a comment. Do you see what NBC is doing there? They're calling TikTok and they're saying, why are you allowing this RFK segment that has been banned by Google to appear on your platform? They're trying to pressure TikTok into censoring. This is what's so important to understand, is that the leading agitators and activists for censorship of the internet are these large media corporations. They are threatened by independent media. They hate the idea that there are people who can speak without their control, who can say things that the corporate media has decided is false, and they use their platform constantly under the guise of reporting. Every day you can pick up the New York Times. We called Facebook and asked for comment about why they're allowing this post to remain. It's a way of telling Facebook, we're going to use our platform as the New York Times to accuse you of having blood on your hands or spreading disinformation or endangering marginalized groups if you continue to allow free speech instead of censoring. That's the role that corporate media plays. They have been the leaders in ushering in this corporate censorship regime. And it would be bad enough if this were the autonomous decisions of corporate executives. But we know it's not. We know from the Twitter files, we know from all kinds of reporting that we've reported on endlessly on the show, that this is coming from the federal government. The federal government is pressuring these big tech platforms to censor for them in ways the Constitution would prevent the US government from doing directly. And that was why a federal district court judge last week, on July 4th, granted a motion from the plaintiffs in this lawsuit that was brought against the FBI and the NIH and the White House press secretary, alleging that they've been unconstitutionally pressuring big tech to censor for them, and the federal court enjoined, prevented, banned, restrained these federal officials and federal agencies from continuing to pressure big tech. This is the point that we're at. Whatever you think of Jordan Peterson, whatever you think of RFK Jr., you don't have to like them. You don't even have to think what they're saying is true. These are not people who are on the fringes or the margins. They're not advocating that for genocide. They're not advocating that huge groups of people be put into death camps. These are not people who are so far outside of the bounds and traditions of American decency that censoring them should even be debatable. Google banned this interview, just banned it. His interview with RFK Jr. And I realized that I didn't make such a big deal out of it because I'm also somebody at the point where it seems normal to me now. And it shouldn't seem normal to any of us. This is incredibly menacing. And it shouldn't seem normal to any of us. This is incredibly menacing. This is incredibly menacing.